Good. Can everybody hear me? Sound? Okay, good. Sorry about that. I moved my microphone and I put it on mute. So sorry about that. All right. Well, you didn't miss anything good. I was just saying hello to everyone. So thanks for joining us. We have a few more people that are logging in right now. So we'll get started in 1 second here. So hello, everyone. We're going to be continuing on with what we had started at the last masterclass, and we're going to really dive deep into what makes a woman, all of the biochemical levels that makes her her, the word biomarker that we used last time, meaning those particular lab levels that are the actual biological markers or indicators. And these are the things on your lab reports that are high or low or normal. The problem with the medical test is they are just that. They're very medical. They're not looking for the intricacies of what makes a woman a woman. They're not looking at it preventatively. They're not looking at it proactively. So that is where the world of functional medicine lab tests come into play. And that's what we're going to be diving into tonight, and some great information about women and women's hormones specifically. So we're going to get into that. So now that we have everybody in, let's get started. And what I'm going to do is we're going to start by sharing our screen. So we're going to go back into these biomarkers and we're going to be taking a look at individual lab tests. So let's go take a look at some things here. And just as a recollection here, we're going to start with this. So good. Okay, good. Okay, good. So now this was a chart we had talked about many classes ago, but it talks about all the specific hormone pathways. And now we're going to start diving deep into all of these words. So whether you can read it or not, this is what really makes the female hormonal system the female hormonal system. It is not just estrogen. It is not just progesterone. It's all the things that happen before estrogen and progesterone are created. It's about everything that happens as estrogen and progesterone are being created. And then it's also after they're done being utilized, what happens to the leftovers, which are known as, quote, metabolites? What happens to the waste products? Where does it go? How does your body eliminate it? And why is it so important at what happens at the end? That's just as important that happens in the beginning and, of course, in the middle. So that's what we're going to be diving into. So what we're going to be doing is we're going to be looking at some individual lab panels of all of these words and talking more about the specifics and how these functional medicine lab tests really help you understand what is going on metabolically. It also helps you know what's the true story, because so many people come to me and they're like, I know it's my hormones. And again, that is a very vague statement. It's like, and I want to know, well, which hormones? And because the medical model only ever really talks about 2 of them, you're missing the other 65. And you're like, what? Wait a minute. There's 67 different hormones? I'm like, yes. And we have to look at all of them, because that is where your true hormonal imbalance is coming from. So if you do lab tests and your estrogen and progesterone are normal, but yet you feel terrible and or you feel like you have all of the symptoms that you're reading online about what does, menopause, perimenopause, or hormonal imbalance feel like. So you're wondering, well, how can I have all of the symptoms but then have totally normal estrogen and progesterone? And I'm just answer, very good question. And that's what we're going to get into right now. So we're going to be taking a look at some very specific lab tests here. And let's go here, and I'm going to bring this up, and then you will be able to share. I'll try and zoom in as much as I can here. So let me go grab it. And we'll see if I can zoom in here. So let's see what we can do. All right. So let's see how big we can get this. So these are what the lab tests look like. And let me see if I can get it bigger. Please hold. Let's see here. Let's see. Without going off the screen. So let me get it as big as I can on the screen. Oh, that's too big. That's as good as we can get it. So here is a hormonal lab test. And of course, you definitely want to do the estrogens and progesterone. Now, the first thing is you need to know is you actually have 3 different estrogens. So there, it already gets complicated right out of the gate. So everyone's like, is it my estrogen? My next question is, well, which one? And like people are like, wait a minute, I didn't even know there was more than one. So what we need to do is there's three key kinds of estrogen, and they are known as E1, E2, E3, and then they actually have their long, scientific name here of estradiol, estrone, and estriol. And having a relationship and proper balance of the three is really what means good hormonal function as far as estrogen is concerned. And the way you read this particular chart here is everything we're going to talk about is green is good, yellow is so-so, and red is bad. So it's not only do I have an estrogen problem, the next question is do I have a problem with one particular or all three estrogens or something in between? So you can see this particular woman here, her estradiol is slightly on the high side, which is not good. Estradiol, if you're going to put them in priority order, and the most important one, estradiol is the most important one. The problem is it's also the most dangerous one for creating all of the hormonal imbalances, estrogen cancers. And so it puts you at high risk to have this one high. So as you can see, it's kind of, categorized by, it's called quintile distribution. So what percentage are you in? Are you in the first, the second, the third, the fourth, or the fifth? So most of these hormones, when you're talking the word balance, you want to be somewhere in the second or third, see where all that green is. That is the ideal place to be. So this particular woman is having true estrogen and progesterone problems, but not only that, you need to see which ones are high or low, and then also the relationship and the ratio between them. So definitely too much of the estradiol, estrone looks fine. Way too much of the estriol, the E3 there. She's like off the chart. So this is not good news when it comes to estrogen. This is not only probably a menopausal situation where she's creating too much of the incorrect estrogens. This E3 here is probably a detox problem that she's not excreting it as well as she could or should. And that's putting her at an additional risk. In addition to that, here you also have high testosterone, which again, testosterone, the woman is very critical and very important in keeping the estrogens and progesterones balanced. She has too much testosterone and she has too much progesterone. So she has a lot of problems across the board. So I know from a true hormonal standpoint, this woman is battling quite a lot of things. Now, as the report goes on, it gives you information here. You can take a look at that. We'll scroll down. It explains what's normal, where you want your ranges to be. On the next page here, it talks about in black and white where you want to be for your age, what part of your menstrual cycle are you in, if you're still getting them, where you want your numbers to be, and then it gives you the raw score. So I like the colored graphs. It's a much better, easier way to take a look at it, but this will do for now. And then the next thing is on page 3 here, you get commentary about everything that we just took a look at. So it talks about all of the different things. And it says here, these estrogens play a critical role. And then it talks about how certain ones are more potent. So this estrogenic potency of the estradiol, as we talked about, it's 12 times more potent. And 80 times more potent than the estriol. So they're all equally important for different reasons, but some have a little bit more of aggressive tendency. And it talks about if it's too high, if it's too low, if the ratios are imbalanced, what does that mean? And what are you really looking at? And on page 4, it continues on. And this is great information, but there's actually more information that actually is even more important. And that's what we're going to take a look at next. Because the problem is, like I said, is everyone's looking at estrogen, estrogen, estrogen. And yes, it's important. And yes, I gave you an example of a chart and a diagram of a patient that it is the situation. That's not always going to be the case. There are other key hormones that actually work hand in hand with the traditional sex hormones. And that's what we're going to take a look at next on this report, because they're actually, most of the time, in my clinical findings and in getting good clinical success and making these ultimate promises of genuinely being able to naturally handle your hormones, which most women don't believe, by the way. We get people who call us all the time and they're like, yes, I want, to do estrogen therapy. And we're like, what do you mean by that? Because we have a different definition. And they're like, well, I want to go on hormone replacement. And then we say, we don't do hormone replacement. And then you get the pause and kind of the crickets. And they're like, well, what do you do? And then we say, we balance hormones naturally. And they're like, I didn't know you could balance hormones naturally. And then we're like, yes. And then they're like, well, how do you go about doing that? And that's a very difficult answer to give, as you're seeing now. It's like, it's because we know how to take a look at the whole body, top to bottom, every single estrogen and type, in ratio to progesterone, testosterone, and the two we're going to look at now. So it absolutely is 100% possible to balance all of your hormones, not just the few we're talking about, but all 67, and do it naturally. The reason you're not hearing about it out there is because the medical model can't do it. So that's who has the louder, stronger voice, unfortunately. But it actually can be done, and it can be done 100% naturally. And these women call in, and like literally, they do not become patients because they don't believe us. They're like, I don't believe you. We're like, well, we don't know how to prove it to you. We're like, come to our masterclass, watch some of our videos. We don't know what to tell you. Read some, our hundreds of success stories. It can be done. Just because the medical model is saying it can't be done doesn't mean that's actually the entire truth. That's just the medical truth, but not the whole truth. So let's go take a look at these lab levels that are just as important, and in my opinion, actually more important, because these are the ones that really make a huge difference. So let's go back to that. Good. So this page here we're going to come up on here is melatonin, and melatonin is a brain hormone, and most people tend to think of it more about having to do with brain and sleep, because it kind of falls into the category when you're looking at serotonin and tryptophan. And so a lot of people will take an over-the-counter melatonin supplement to sleep better. The problem is that a key portion of your hormonal system is controlled in the brain. Now it has its effect elsewhere on your adrenal glands, your ovaries, your uterus, on things down below, so to speak, but where the master and command center is in the brain. So part of these really terrible scores that we saw on page 1 are not all the hormones' fault. Some of those high levels are high because they're trying to compensate for other problems. And one of the key problems we're looking at here is this woman's melatonin levels in the morning. So again, green is good, yellow is so-so, red is bad. And look at this woman in the morning. Like she must be Medusa first thing when she wakes up. She wakes up somewhere between 7 and she's just like, ah! And her brain is just like on overdrive. I'm assuming it's her brain that actually wakes her up in the morning. I don't think she wakes up and then this starts. I think her brain goes into like neurotic mode, and that literally is what wakes her up in the morning. So this is a woman most likely, waking up with some kind of anxiety attack, or just like her brain is just like, it starts first thing in the morning. Look at this diamond that you see there. So it's like off the chart. Now, as the day goes on, she does calm down. So you can see her 3 to 5 p.m. score there. And then in the middle of the night, she's fine. But somewhere between 3:30 a.m. and 7 a.m., her brain just goes like off the rails. I guarantee she's waking up between 3:30 and 7. And I guarantee she's getting hot flashes, and all the hormonal stuff we saw on page 1 is turning on. And she's thinking that this is, again, the medical approach. I need to be on estrogen. No, you don't need to be on estrogen. You need to get your melatonin down into its natural normal levels. So here is a case of melatonin overshadowing the root cause. Then there's also information on what happens with the melatonin on this report. And then the key thing here is, I love this one. It's your cortisol, and it's known as DHEA. These are two key adrenal gland hormone support hormones. And I love these two because usually it's the adrenal glands that are the driving force the driving force behind true sex hormone imbalances. So usually, not always, but usually once you balance out the adrenal glands, all the other sex hormone balances go back into normal levels. So usually what you're looking at here is a cortisol upset. So on the left here, you see what happens when this woman wakes up between waking and 30 minutes later, and then a little bit longer at 7 a.m. And on the left, her increase is a bit too high. So we're expected a 50% increase, and she increases 163. So again, she's waking up already too jacked up and neurotic. And to further confirm that, you see then her levels specifically at different times of the day. So again, green is good, yellow so, and red is bad. And in addition to her melatonin being off the charts, her cortisol is already here in the red. So she has to be, I don't know who this is because I took the names off the report, but this person has to be literally being woken up by an anxiety attack, because look at these scores. Again, she calms down in the middle of the day. She never does reach normal. Like, she never is calm. Like, just throughout the day, she's better, but totally still not normal. And then something's happening between 3 and 5, it gets jacked up again. What I'm thinking here most likely is, so many people tell me they get tired around 3 in the afternoon. She's probably drinking coffee with sugar, or eating something with sugar in it, or something to get her blood sugar kind of pushing her. But what it's doing is it's annoying her cortisol levels. Or this is when she's exercising. So exercise, so many women are creating menopause and perimenopause in themselves by doing the incorrect exercise routine. As you get older, you're supposed to change, as we talk so much about in the other women's wellness classes here. Is as you get older, every decade, remember, your body is supposed to change, and then therefore your diet, your lifestyle, your exercise, everything is supposed to change with it. But unfortunately, your body doesn't give you the memo. It's not like, hi, good morning, so as of today, for the next 10 years, this is what we'd like you to do. No, it just makes everything you were currently doing wrong, and you're like, oh my gosh, what happened? So every 10 years at least, you need to be revamping and taking a closer look at, does the body still want you to do what it's been doing for the past 10 years? And one of the secrets to this adrenal gland stress being number one is, first and foremost, we are all too stressed. And the number one organ that handles that stress are the adrenal glands, because they are your stress glands. They are the ones that respond to any kind of stress you're under, whether that's bad news or being chased by a tiger. And depending on how bad is bad, the cortisol is the number one stress hormone that is increased. So if you're already too stressed, you're already into the beginnings of perimenopause, the last thing you want to be doing is doing an exercise routine that further excretes or increases your cortisol excretion. And that is a high intensity cardiovascular workout. So what you want to be doing is, what's popular right now is all of these HIIT routines, HIIT, these high intensity interval training routines. You don't want to be doing that. When you start if this woman that we're talking about right now, if she's doing a high intensity exercise routine, she's stopping immediately, because she's making a bad situation worse. For all we know, most of these bad scores are due to that exercise routine. So we're looking at a low interval or a low intensity exercise routine. It's still an intense routine, but just not one that gets the cardiovascular system going or gets your heart rate much over 100 to 125. So you want to stay there. You want to get an intense workout, but one that doesn't jack up your cortisol levels. So let me go back and show you that again, because that's exactly what's going on here. And I hope this woman, if she is, one of the things I'm telling her is to stop that. And then down below in the little bars there, you can't really see too clearly, but it's the other hormone. It's the DHEA, and she's on the low end. And the DHEA is kind of like the spark. So, like when you have the fire burning, but you need the spark. So she doesn't have enough spark. She already is down too low. So she barely has enough spark on top of it. So she's wired and tired. She's stressed and drained at the same time. And she's doing this to some degree to herself. And that's part of working with me, doing the consultations, doing the body analysis, and working with me long enough. This is how we discover what it is you're doing right, and also what it is you're doing wrong. And then, as always, the rest of this report shows you the specifics of what that could mean, all of the different problems. And one of the key things I want to show you here on this page here is the word HPA axis and all the different parts that that's intimately involved in. So I'm going to blow that up so you can see it big. Let me see if I can move over here a little bit. I want you to see this word. Where did it go? HPA axis. So everybody see it here in the middle of the screen. Okay, that is very, very important. And so it has to do with three key organs. It's the hypothalamus, the pituitary, and the adrenal. And this brings us back to what we were talking about prior, where we talked in the other classes about this. Anything can cause anything. And that's what we're looking at here is, again, all of these different organs, how they intimately work with each other. And so we're going to show that to you now. So again, just as a reminder, this anything can cause anything. So this is the part of the HPA axis that we were talking about. So you see in the upper left, so important. Look how big the word hypothalamus is. So the bigger the word, the more important it is. I mean, they're all important, but some things are more important than others. So look at that hypothalamus and pituitary. These are two organs that, guess where they are? In the brain. And then an intimate connection between all of the different organs and systems. But if you shift all the way over to the right, you see the adrenal glands. So this HPA axis has a very direct and also indirect and positive and negative relationship with the bottom left there, where you see the sex organs, the ovaries, the uterus, the placenta, during pregnancy, the breast tissue. So you see the sex organs and the sex hormones in the bottom left, but they are intimately correlated with the other three. And this brings me back to the anything can cause anything. So this is not, Lori saying these things. I'm not making this up. This is taking a look at how a body really works and understanding organs and systems and their positive and negative relationships to each other, and then doing these functional medicine lab tests that the medical model will not do. Or even if they're doing, I've noticed a handful of medical doctors trying to get into functional medicine, even if they do the test, they don't understand what they're looking at nor how to interpret it, because they have been trained with this medical kind of one thing causes one thing, therefore we treat that one thing and we treat it with a drug. And even though they have the information, they have no idea what to do with it. They don't understand the anything can cause anything philosophy. They're not looking at the whole HPA axis and how this both directly and indirectly affects the sex hormones, specifically and directly. So these are the key critical things where you have to work with someone who actually knows what they're doing. So anyone can order tests. Anyone can look at results. The true magic and understanding is in one, the discovery of what's high, low, normal, and then two, the interpretation of those scores playing off of each other, and then third, creating a tailor-made natural health improvement program based on 67 different hormones and approximately 50 different organs. And that's where the magic happens. That's the algorithm I've talked so much about in this series. It's not a matter of, do I do this for this? It's if as you saw on that hormone test, if estrogen's high, but progesterone is low, but melatonin is normal, but cortisol is high, I would do a completely different program for someone who had those numbers being exactly opposite. Two women, same symptoms, but when you take a look at their biomarkers, all of these individual lab panel levels known as biomarkers, and the one woman is all high on one side and the other woman is all low on the other side, I would handle them. Their protocols would look completely different. And that is where we've talked so much about tailor-made, personalized, design clinical nutrition. It has to be specifically made for the individual. Even though it's two women, they could be sisters. They could be identical twins, two identical twin sisters who both have, perimenopause, menopause symptoms going on. They could even have the exact same symptoms going on. But we take a look at these two identical twin women's hormone panels, and they look completely different. They are on two completely different hormone programs. That is why this is not cookie cutter. This is why you can't trust or listen to what your neighbor said or your hairdresser said or the person online or the influencer who has 100,000 followers. What they're giving you is great information, but it can't be implied or interpreted that it's the correct information for you. So could it be a magnesium deficiency? It could. It also could not. Could it be due to melatonin? It could, but it also could not. And that's true for every vitamin, every mineral, every biochemical marker, every genetic finding, and every last organ and symptom and system in your body. Look at all of those variables that you're up against as far as trying to figure out the mathematical equation. And this is what I do. So people are like, why do I have to work with you? And I'm like, well, unless you have every last algorithm memorized, then you're good luck on figuring it out. It's also how most new patients get to it. It's like, I've been trying to figure this out on my own. I've been watching people online. I'm doing my thing. I got it right a few times, but it's not working. I'm like, exactly, because you have so many things that you need to know and contend with simultaneously and really get to know and understand what's really happening. So let's go take a look at someone else's hormone panel now. Sorry about that. And let's see what I have here. I just randomly picked them. So let's go. We're going to take a look at this one together. And let's see who we have. And good. All right. So let's see this one. Okay, good. So completely different profile here. So on this particular person, let me see if I can get this a little bit bigger. Good. So on this particular person here, so you can see all of the estrogens are good. So 3 green. Remember, green is good, yellow so-so, red is bad. So estrogens are not the problem. Testosterone looks great. Progesterone, still green on the higher side, but totally normal. And then I forgot to mention the P/E2 ratio. This is your progesterone to E2 ratio. Looks good. So everything is green. So even though this woman, I'm sure, is having hormonal problems, it's not the traditional estrogen, progesterone, or testosterone. So now we need to know, who is it? So let's go on to the other part of the test and look at these other hormones. And look who the bad guy is, Mr. Melatonin. So not only is this poor woman kind of freaked out in the morning when she wakes up between 7 and 9 a.m., I guarantee you she's waking up in the middle of the night. Look at this 230 to 330 score. So she manages to calm down in the middle of the day. So whatever she's doing during the day, she probably has some successful things going for her. But as soon as she goes to bed and the middle of the night, when that body's trying to recover from her day, just look out. Melatonin off the charts. So definitely part of her problem is the melatonin. And look at this poor cortisol, the graph over to the right. She's never normal. Look at this. Oh my goodness. So not only is she not green, she's not yellow, and she's not red. She's never, ever normal. Not 1 second of the day does this woman in this body get any peace. So again, I guarantee you a lot of her symptoms are the same as they would be for perimenopause and menopause, etc. But again, it's a cortisol-induced perimenopause situation and not your traditional hormones. So that's a really good one. So excellent. Let me go see if I can find another one. Take a look at another good one here. So let's see what we have. So good. What's going on here? So good. I just want to go and share. So hello. And give me 1 second. Oop, I look like I lost it. So hold on. Okay, good. So we saw that poor woman. So we're going to get her gone. Let's go to someone who's got a reverse situation. So this is a really interesting one here. So let's go. Give me a second. I'll share this one with you. Okay, good. Okay, good. So here's a really good one. Let me zoom in here. So here is a completely different problem. So this is a woman with all 3 estrogens low. I'm sorry, 2 of them low, and then 1 is normal. But the 2 key ones are low. So remember, they're on here in order of importance. So this is not good here. So this is an estrogen deprivation. And what she also has, look at way off the chart. Her testosterone is off the chart and her progesterone is off the chart. So if you read over to the right, it gives you the normal ranges. Progesterone, you don't want over 850. She's at 3,453. So she is definitely, quote, a hormonal mess, but it's not necessarily, as you can see here, all estrogen's fault. There isn't actually enough estrogen in there to really be the true cause. Now, estrogen deficiency is just as bad as estrogen dominance, and it will give you similar symptoms. But what's key here is what I'm most concerned about is this testosterone level and this progesterone. I'm like, what is this woman doing? So we definitely need to go figure that out. So this is where, the case history, working with me for several months, this isn't all going to be, by the way, due to one thing. There's many things. And that's a lot of working with me. I recommend working with me for a year because we go on a journey of discovery. So maybe this month we discover the one thing that's creating this. And then the next month we discover something else. And then sometimes you don't get to know some of these problems until the seasons change or your life changes. So for example, if you came to me in February and the children are in school, I don't notice a major change in you or your lifestyle or diet habits until summer comes around and the kids are home all summer. And or, the holidays come. Maybe you love the holidays. Maybe you don't like the holidays. All of this will give me additional clues and indicators. So when I say that I would recommend working with me for a year, it's not because I don't know what I'm doing. It's like I want an opportunity to see you go through one full cycle of holidays and stressors and jobs and children, and what do you do in the summer that you don't do in the winter, and what do you do in the winter that you don't do in the summer, and do you take a vacation every fall, and how does that affect you? So all of these things are going to be what she's doing. So it's not as simple as, oh, I eat donuts for breakfast. So that might be involved, and I'm sure it's part of it. It is not the only thing. This is also why we've talked so much why you can't figure yourself out, is there are just too many variabilities that need to be taken a look at and addressed. And I'll tell you, we have a list on an Excel spreadsheet. It's about 75, and that's just the key ones, by the way, 75 key areas we have to take a look at. And then once we've exhausted all those 75 key areas, there's a second list that if we didn't handle or identify it all with that key list, and it takes months to go all of those things because they're not all obvious. So let's take a look what else she might have going on here. And we'll go down to her melatonin. All right. Look at this. Melatonin, absolutely not the problem. So this is, like I said, why you have to take a look at all these levels. Beautiful. These are beautiful, beautiful, beautiful scores. I love it. So it's not her melatonin at all. And then let's go down and take a look at cortisol here. So good. And it's not cortisol. So here is a patient that's making a liar out of me when I said it's almost always cortisol. That's why. It's why I do what I do for a living. I can be wrong. I don't ever guess or assume I know what's wrong with this person until I have all of the data. So I would have guessed most likely, I don't know who this woman is. Again, she's a patient, but I don't know because I took the names off. I might have incorrectly quote diagnosed. This is the problem again with online learning. This is the problem with trying to get your medical advice from social media, is that if you were taking anyone's advice on cortisol or adrenal glands or stress or DHEA or do this in the morning or don't do this in the morning or do that in the morning, you would have been absolutely wrong in doing whatever those recommendations are. So this is why it's so important to have a custom tailor-made program, is in a very positive way. You just don't know what you're going to find. That's also what makes my job fun and exciting, is like, you have a suspicion. It's kind of like a whodunit detective. It's like, okay, so here are the obvious cast of characters. This is what it usually is. And then you always can be surprised, just like we were on this particular lab panel. So really great information. Very pertinent to really making sure you have this particular woman on the exact right hormone quote replacement therapy, natural, of course, but there are going to be definitely things I'm doing with this woman I'm certainly not doing with that first woman we looked at. So wonderful, fantastic, amazing. So isn't this great? I hope you're enjoying it. I'm loving it. So this is what I live for. Very exciting, very exciting. Okay, good. So now what we're going to do is that's the hormone testing. So there's some other things we need to talk about. I'm going to go grab a different lab panel now. And this one has to do with the completely opposite end, literally and proverbial, is we're going to take a look at the gut. So there is a gut. It's called the gastrointestinal test. And what you do is you use a stool sample to get the information. And everyone's like, well, I don't have constipation. This has nothing to do with the actual bowel movement itself. What it has to do with, and it is a little gross, it has to do with which substances, these biomarkers we're talking about, which biomarkers are present and which biomarkers are absent. Because there's actually certain things you want in the stool and there's certain things you do not want in the stool. And when you see what you shouldn't, somewhere between the mouth and the actual end of the colon, there is a problem. And then the next thing is depending on what biomarker is out of range, that gives you clues into whether it's the stomach, the liver, the small intestine, the colon, or somewhere else. So all of these words, these biochemical markers, they're not all universal. They're not all in your body top to bottom in every organ and every system all the time. So for example, just like, in your home, there's only certain appliances and certain things that you will see in certain rooms. So if you walked into someone's house and you saw a bathtub and a toilet, you're in the bathroom because it's obvious, because that's the only room in the house where these items are. So not only for this gastrointestinal test we're going to talk about in just a moment, but also some of these other biomarkers is you can tell by what's there or what's not there. So let's say the flip side of that is you walked into a room and literally this room has nothing in it. Like there's no bed, there's no toilet, there's no nothing. What room do I think I'm in? Since, quote, there's nothing in there, you're probably in a closet. So again, this is the detective work and how kind of thinking outside the box. You have to take a look at what is there and assume what should or should not be there. And then you also have to take a look at what's not there and then also think what should or should not be there. So it's quite a feat to keep all of these thought processes going simultaneously in conjunction with the other lab tests like we just looked at, and also the patient themselves and their symptoms. So there's a lot of plates spinning in the air. So let's go take a look at one of these tests here. All right, good. So let's go. Where is it? Doesn't look like it showed up. Give me a second to go find it. Okay, hold on. There it is. Okay, excellent. All right, so this is a gastrointestinal panel, and let me see if I can get this a little bit bigger so you can see. What I love so much about these reports are the beautiful colors and pictures that they give you. So for your information, so you can better understand what we have going on. Again, this really takes my opinion out of it as well. This is actually, these are the biomarkers giving you the color. So green is good, yellow so-so, red is bad. So this particular woman is having a problem in some very specific key areas. So in the gut, there's 5 key areas that we want to take a look at, and they are the maldigestion, any risk for infection, your metabolites imbalance, or basically your metabolic abilities, dysbiosis, which is the abnormal gut flora, the bad bacteria, an overgrowth of the good bacteria, and then also yellow there you see the inflammatory markers. So what we have here is we have 2 good ones, we have 1 so-so, and we have 2 bad ones. So what we do now, and a little bit down on that same page, is this is now a little bit more of a detailed, information on what we just looked at on the overall summary above. So what this part does is also gives you the magnitude of how good or bad it is. So maldigestion here, 0 green, fantastic, beautiful. 0 is the best, 10 is the worst. So green 0, that's the best you can ask for. Decent amount of inflammation here with a score of 6. So again, 0 the worst, or 0 is the best, 10 is the worst. So 6, that's a decent amount of inflammation. I'm not happy with that. Dysbiosis, we definitely have an absolutely overgrowth of the bacteria. And then not only, just like everything we've talked about so far, not only is it about knowing that the bacteria are high, it's more important to know which ones, because this is again where you're getting yourself into trouble by doing your cookie cutter nutrition. Is when someone's like, you need a probiotic, your next question should be which one? And most people right there, you'll just it'll be deer in the headlights and it'll stop. You need to know what exact bacteria in your gut are high, normal, and low, because you're supposed to be on a probiotic that only gives you the ones that are low. You can actually make a bad situation worse or confuse your gut, that if you gave it some more bacteria of something it didn't need, it actually could end up undoing everything you're working so hard to achieve. So not only do we need to know based on this test, and I'll show you this again, is what the actual, do we have a problem with bacteria, yes or no? And then now that we know we have a problem, which specific bacteria? And we're going to be talking about that because that comes later on in the report. So what we have here is we have a gut flora problem, and we need to know which ones. Then we have a metabolic imbalance. So there's definitely some breakdown in metabolism. You can see here, it has like this little red triangle. So again, red triangle going up means bad. So green, it's kind of like up and down and normal. So green dotted normal, reds are bad. And then when the triangle goes down, it means it's a deficiency. So in this metabolic imbalance, this woman has 2 problems: too high of something known as beta glucuronidase, which tells us there's an overgrowth and an abuse of the bad bacteria. This is a toxic substance and will create other bowel situations and long-term problems, disease, even you'd start talking the C word, which is cancer. So I'm not saying just because you have this high, you have cancer, but it's a really bad indicator. Remember, everything we're doing on these lab tests is know what's wrong now and what bad diseases, diagnoses, and situations can we be proactive about now. So let's hurry up and get this woman's beta glucuronidase down now before she's getting diagnosed with the C word 5-10 years from now. So very, very important. And then infection over to the right. So it looks like there's no parasites, there's no bad bacteria. Remember, in the gut, there's good bacteria and bad bacteria, and both of them can be overgrown or too high. So what this particular woman has is an overgrowth of the good bacteria, but not a growth or an overgrowth of the bad bacteria. So that's really good news. So this is what we're looking at. Then down below that in the white, there's some commentary. Again, I tell patients, do not immediately start just doing everything below, because if you don't need it, you're actually going to make a bad situation worse. So if you give a gut that doesn't need enzymes, you're actually going to confuse it. If you are already too acidic and you take hydrochloric acid, or you start doing shots of apple cider vinegar, you're going to make a bad situation worse. We first have to even prove or confirm that you have too alkaline of a gut that even apple cider vinegar would be necessary. So take a look at this first column. If this woman started doing apple cider vinegar, she doesn't have a problem. She's actually going to undo something that, don't fix it if it isn't broken. So she actually might end up giving herself a maldigestion situation by taking this random social media advice that everybody needs to do a shot of apple cider vinegar. Not this woman. Some women, yes, but not her. So this is why it's so important. So although the whites indicate the key areas, remember, like I said, I have this list of 75 things we look at. Then these are the things we look at in addition to the 75 areas. We look at the ultra specifics. So do you need to be on some digestive enzymes? Should you be taking some turmeric? Should we be doing more fiber? Should we be doing less fiber? All of these things are very, very important. And it's once you have these answers here in black and white, so to speak, now you can be accurate in your assessment. And then I can be 100% certain and accurate in my recommendations of you're getting enzymes or you're not getting enzymes, or you're getting a probiotic or you're not getting a probiotic. So very, very important. Then the test goes on and gives you some green, yellow, and red of healthy cohort. This means how many of the good healthy bacteria do you have? So she has plenty of the good ones, but look at the bad ones here that she has an overgrowth in. Look at this inflammation-associated dysbiosis. This woman's gut is on fire, 99. That's probably one of the highest scores I've ever seen. So way, way, way too much inflammation. Next one here, zone 1 puts you in the risk zone. So zone 1 is the best, zone 4 is the worst. So this woman, again, I'm not diagnosing her with the C word, but look at this report. These are some bad signs. So if she doesn't have it already, she is setting herself up for it. And that is why in functional medicine, you're trying to be proactive, causative, and preventative. And then once you identify what's going wrong, you hurry up and fix it, so we don't get any future situations coming our way. Here you can see her overall abundance of the good and where she should be. She's got way too much. Her U here, again, green is good, red is bad. So she's way too far over into the danger zone. And then here is then the specific types they're called phylums. They're particular groups of this bacteria. These bacteria are all, quote, good bacteria, but you can see she has too many of some and not enough of the other. So where you want all of these pretty colored bars is to be right down where you see the word healthy cohort. There's a black line. So some of them aren't coming to her rescue because she doesn't have enough of them. The bar is too short. And the one that's getting her in the biggest trouble, that's creating all this inflammation, it's called the Fusobacteria phylum. So this is the particular group of good bacteria that when you have too much of a good thing becomes a bad thing. So she's got all of this overgrowth of this bacteria creating all of this inflammation. And then she's probably not eating enough fiber, and she's eating the wrong amount of fats. So again, I'm not for a high carb or a low carb diet. I'm not for a high fiber or a low fiber diet. I'm not for a high anything versus a low anything diet. Your diet is going to be based on your lab scores, what is right for you. So this particular woman is not eating enough fiber and then probably eating too much fat for her gut. So that doesn't mean I'm putting on a high fiber, low fat diet. I just mean I need to balance out these ratios a little bit, because whatever she's doing is too extreme. Because look at this line. That's really, really high, really, really bad. And then now we can get into even more specifics. Like if we don't know enough already, here is every last nerdy word that we talked about. Remember this word biomarker. So when people ask, what are you looking for? I'm looking for words like pancreatic elastase. I'm looking for words like long chain fatty acids. I'm looking at words like phospholipids. I'm looking at words like calprotectin. So this is why one of the hardest parts to explain to a patient, to you, the viewer, what it is we're doing, because the words I need to use, no offense to you, you just don't even know. So this would be like, telling me, okay, Lori, so explain quantum physics to me, but I have absolutely no science background. I've never watched a documentary on space. All I know is there's these bright little sparkly things in the sky. So now explain quantum physics. You're like, holy cow, like, yikes. So there is such a big difference between where you are and what I need to do to trying to get the gap is sometimes difficult. Doesn't mean you're not smart, doesn't mean I don't love you, doesn't mean I can't explain it to you. It's just the magnitude and the difficulty it's going to take. There is, in functional medicine in general, there has got to be at least a certain amount of trust. And we've talked about this in other wellness classes. For example, I have an accountant. I do not understand tax law. I really don't understand business law for my practice. I know some, I know enough that I need to know on how to run my QuickBooks and get these reports to my accountant. But do I want to know tax law? Do I want to sit every year and read the books over again and then read all the changes they made to the books? It's like, I just don't have the time. And even if I had the time, there are so many words and so many categories I just don't understand. Doesn't mean I'm not a smart person. It just means I don't have the time to make myself a tax law accounting expert every April. So I'm like, here, buddy, it's over to you. So what we're doing in functional medicine is pretty much that equivalent. This is not nutrition. This is not take some vitamin A. This is not eat more fiber. This is finding out at the core who you are genetically and biochemically, and which of your biomarkers are high or low or normal, and then taking into all the things we're covering in the last master class, this master class, and it's going to take the next master class, of really getting an appreciation and understanding of who you are. So let's go back to the report, because there's a few more things I want to show you. Okay, good. So now you have all of these nerdy words, and then you see a blue L that means low, means it's not enough, and a red H means high, means there's too much. And again, it's not just any one individual word, it's also the ratios of those words together. Then we go on into the very specific actual bacteria name. So first, on the first page, we had the groups of problems. Then on those pretty colored bars, then we had all the specific groups of the bacteria. And now we have all of the actual bacteria names within each group. So you can see how far down the rabbit hole we are. So you can see here the different ones that are high versus low. H means high, L means low. So you can see the different ones that are not coming to this woman's rescue. You can see the ones that are completely overwhelming her by the highs and the lows. So the worst score she has here is down. It's the specific species is called the Fusobacterium. She has a terrible overgrowth, and it is one of the key reasons for all of the inflammation that this woman has in her gut. So we'll be taking a look at that. Then we take a look at some, also if there's a yeast overgrowth, and if anything growing in there is pathogenic. At the moment here, you can see based on the colors, if anything was in red, that means she's already in big trouble. That means probably there already is, quote, the C word or something like it, or some serious disease state. Yellow means it's turning into a potential pathogen. So though, despite we have these really non-optimum scores on the previous pages, she's still in the non-pathogen range here. So phew, thank goodness for that. So then the other thing is the other problem is everyone thinks that the only kind of yeast you can have is candida, because that's the one you've only ever heard of or been told or taught by everyone. This particular woman does have a yeast overgrowth, but as you see, it says yeast, but it's not candida. So again, all of your health hacks, everybody on social media, everyone telling you this is what you do for yeast infections or that, it only works if it's candida. And this woman has a non-candida yeast situation. So I guarantee all the health hacks online aren't working because you're handling it incorrectly. So again, specifics, specifics, specifics. Then it also goes in and checks the most common and the most dangerous types of parasites. There's 4 different categories of parasites by size, microscopic all the way up to tapeworms, and then their actual Latin scientific names. So in a very positive way, look, none detected here. So thank goodness for that. So we already have enough problems with the other things we're doing with this woman. We definitely don't need any more problems than we already have. So I think you're getting a good appreciation of when I say you really do need the functional medicine lab test to further verify and validate your suspicions. There's a lot I already know and do. There's a lot you probably already know and do yourself. But in order to get the rest of the story, to finally get to the root causes of these hormonal imbalances. So is it a hormone situation as we saw on the hormone test, or is it a detox situation as we just looked at on the gut test? Because remember, I told you the secret to balancing hormones is not only fixing what might be too high or too low, not being created correctly on the front end. More importantly, and most of the time in keeping with the hormonal imbalances that we have looked at, it's a gut issue where you're not detoxing out those hormone residues or waste products on the back end. So it's not that you're making too much testosterone, is that you're not detoxing out enough of the testosterone residues on a daily basis. And you would handle those things 2 completely different ways. So I think that was a really good understanding there. If anybody has any questions, I'm going to show you one more gut test. So you can chime in with a question about anything we've covered. But while we have a few more minutes, let's go take a look at another one. So go ahead and put those in. Let me go see if I can find a real good one. Let's see this person. Good. Yeah, this is a good one. So again, completely different score. So again, the gut handling would be totally different for this particular person. So we're going to do this one a lot more quickly because we are running out of time, but just so you can see. So this particular person here, oops, wrong way. Okay, good. So her overall, look at the colors, definitely no yellow, 3 reds, and the reds are different than the other one. This particular woman has no inflammation. Look at that green score there. But she does have an infection. She does have a metabolic imbalance, and she does have a dysbiosis situation. So look at these terrible scores here. Over on the right, a 9, a 7, an 8. This woman is miserable, but for a completely different set of reasons. So again, just quickly going through, she no longer has a healthy amount of the good bacteria. She actually has too many of them now. Look at her U score. She's in trouble here at this yellow. So they're not in there playing nice at all anymore. Even for all of this overgrowth, look at how low her inflammation score is. The other woman was 99. She's only a 14. So does she have a completely imbalanced gut? Yes. But is it an inflammatory gut? No. Because look at her zone. She's in zone 1. She's in the green. So she has some very non-optimum things, but they're not harming her in the same fashion as the other woman. Her U score is much better as where she is overall in the big picture. So that's beautiful. And then look at her colored line. She has a lot of ones that are normal. So the first ones, that's good enough to that black line. So 1 is normal. The third one, or I'm sorry, the second one, really bad. That's her worst one. That's what's getting her in the most trouble. The third one here, the purple, that's a bit too high. But the aqua one is good. The light blue, this kind of deeper blue, you can see she has some things working for her. But she's got 2, the first one there at the top, the firmicutes, and then back here, the verruco microbia. So completely different categories of overgrowth of the bacteria. And this is going to give her a completely different treatment and protocol. Then he or she doesn't have a lot of those red H's and red L's that the other woman had. These are all normal. This is not where the problem is. Beta glucuronidase is actually too low. I mean, you really can't have too low, but actually this is really good. That other one was off the chart. And then you can see here all of the bacteria that are all with a normal limit. So green is good, yellow so-so, red is bad. She has a really had, now Here's what she had. This is another temptation. Look at this firmicutes here, and you see halfway down this really red H, it says lactobacillus. Every time I hear women talking about bacteria and they're going to take a probiotic, what are they taking? Lactobacteria, lactobacillus. And what does this woman not need? Exactly the one that's in yogurt, that's all over the news, that famous people are touting on yogurt commercials and in probiotics. She's gonna make a bad situation worse. So if she's eating yogurt or she's trying to take one of these over-the-counter lactobacillus ones, she's making a bad situation worse. So definitely, again, back to tailor-made nutrition. All right, good. So let's go back into the report and we'll wrap it up. And let's see here. So she has some yellow. So she has some potential pathogens. So even though she doesn't have an inflammation, she has some things that are creating other non-optimum health situations and dangerous gut levels. So take a look at these yellows. So she's got a few. She's over here in the fourth percentile or the fourth quadrant. The higher to the right, you are, the more dangerous it is. So she unfortunately has a whole bunch of scores over in that fourth quadrant, and they are potential pathogens. That is really non-optimum. So we have to get to work. She does have an overgrowth of the yeast, and it is in her. It says Candida. So she could benefit from all the hacks online from the Candida. The other woman would not. The problem is even though it's just, quote, good old Candida, she's in the potential pathogen range. High Candida can start causing diseases and health situations beyond just, some menopausal symptoms or a cranky gut. She's in big trouble here. And then same thing here, no parasites. So good for her. We have enough going on with all of these other scores. So definitely looking at some similar problems, but not a similar handling based on what we saw here. So the one woman would be good in handling a lactobacillus probiotic, and the other one would not. The one would do well with a traditional Candida handling, and the other one would not. So remember, it comes down to being ultra specific in everything you need to know and do. Okay, good. All right, so that brings us to the end of our presentation. If you have any questions, anything you want to know, whether it's related to the topic or not, or the subject or the lab test we did, you can quick throw those in. Otherwise, again, these functional medicine lab tests, I love them. They are so accurate, so specific, and allows you and I 100% to guarantee and be certain that we will get at the root cause of every last health situation you have now and prevent anything from happening in the future. So it doesn't look like we have any questions. So thanks so much for watching this evening. Let's see here, the question. So the cost to get them done, it depends on the different labs. So they range somewhere between $700 and $1,000, depending on which lab you get. We do packages to try and make it more cost affordable. But you have to realize, one, you're veering outside the medical realm. And even though those prices are a lot more than what you're paying for the traditional medical doctor, what you're getting is about 1,000 times the amount of information. So realize the way the medical model works is they do very little and they charge top dollar. The problem is that's what, again, insurance will cover. So these are not covered by insurance because they're going to be deemed not medically necessary. And that is absolutely true. We don't want you to have a medical problem. We're trying to prevent medical problems. So they're not going to cover tests that are going to prevent you from getting sick. So these are all functional medicine preventative tests. Depending on which doctor you go to, some doctors charge as much as $3,000 for each individual test. Again, we try and do a pricing package, and it depends, again, some of the tests, depending on how many biomarkers you're testing, it will range. So the more biomarkers that are tested, of course, the higher the price. So that's what you're looking at. We keep it quite affordable, even though you're like, wow, that's not exactly maybe by definition affordable. Remember, you go and have these tests done with a functional medicine medical doctor. You're looking at somewhere between $1,000 to $3,000 per test. So we're trying to, again, create a one-year wellness program where we have not only the lab tests, diet and lifestyle consulting, body examinations, working with me, a woman's wellness course and embarking on a 1-year discovery journey together. And so what we do is we offer the lab panels as part of a package. So it's nothing we do is really quote a la carte. So I really can't give you an exact number, but that's on average what you're looking at if you tried to break it down per test. So great question. Okay, good. Question, yes, will we have a class on the different types of water? We absolutely will. What we're doing right now is we're showing you, and we will next time as well, showing you all the problem areas. And then the next series of women's master classes will be then all the possible solutions to all of those problems. And water is absolutely one of the key problems. So that's going to be a whole wellness class of itself. So absolutely, we're going to do water for sure. Okay, great. Well, thanks again, ladies, for watching. Please enjoy the rest of your evening. And we'll be back again in 2 weeks with our third masterclass in the 3-part series to the functional medicine lab test. We have 2 more wonderful, beautiful lab tests that are going to give us the rest of the story. So even if we don't have enough already, which is plenty, we do want to get a full and complete picture and understanding of what's happening with every single organ and system, using every biomarker to our advantage. So we have 2 beautiful. The last one is actually my favorite, so we'll save the best for last. So again, ladies, have a great evening, and we will see you all again in 2 weeks. Bye.